Just please.
Well, welcome back to the Jekyll and Hyde rehearsal room here with the Box Clever crew. Today we're talking about the themes of Jekyll and Hyde. This is a meaty, important story and something that we've been wrestling with. Let's first talk, well, we're going to be quite specific actually, because in our particular production there are two narrators that are arguing for creative control. They both have a very clear idea of what they think this story is all about. So perhaps we can start over with Jacob. What do you think? What do you think it's all about?
So yeah, I think the biggest theme of this whole book is duality, and it's seen in a lot of different parts. And with what my character goes through, he thinks it's a lot about sort of mental health, which may not be how Stevenson wrote it at the time, but we're looking at it from a contemporary perspective, that there's this struggle, this internal struggle going in with Jekyll and Hyde. Well, with Jekyll as Hyde comes out, and that happens with a lot of us, with a lot of mental health and mental illness is a lot more prevalent in today's society. We talk about it a lot more, we're a lot more aware of it. So whether he's ahead of his time or writing it, or it's just a big coincidence, which I think you should always give the benefit of the doubt to the writer, that he's talking about the struggle that's within us and the sort of duality we have there of the conflicts that maybe the things that you want contrast to what society expects you to be.
Yeah, that's a really interesting start. Of course, Coco, your character has a very different perspective of what this story is all about. So, let our auditors know what your character's thinking.
Well, Jekyll and Hyde is a book, and I think my character is mainly focused on the thriller and the excitement of the book. You know, the pace, the dark, gloomy parts, the surprise and shock horrors, but I don't think she's made a connection to the real life kind of effects of what the book does. So I think she's all about when you watch a film and a thriller, you want to get a bit of excitement, you want a bit of shock, you want a bit of a twist. And it's all about the pizzazz and the performance of it all. I don't think there's much of a deeper meaning to it per se.
Yeah, so I suppose the battle going on within the play is, as they say, this sense that is it a thriller, a melodrama? It's just a kind of bit of fun, as Coco says. It's something that should scare and shock, or is it something much deeper, much more dangerous? And that's where the sort of conflict lies between those two characters. But at the heart of our play is, of course, Jekyll and Hyde himself, or themselves, depending on how you want to think about it. So, you know, talked a little bit about in previous videos about playing this character, but when you think about that central theme of the duality within us all, or even within the society that Stevenson was painting within London, what's your take on all of that, and where do you lie between those two extreme viewpoints of the narrators?
Thank you, Hal. Right, I think that, like you were saying, like Jacob was saying, these societal expectations that Stevenson sets up of like, okay, a certain individual must walk like this, must talk like this, must not step outside of the dotted line. I mean, we have a movement director, Richard, and Hal, both have young children. And this idea of approaching the world with an innocence. So if we look at the Victorian world that Stevenson sets up, it's like, okay, what are the basic rules of society? Okay, fire is hot, don't jump in the Thames, and don't commit ridiculous acts of violence or emotion or passion. And what if we create a character, i.e. Hyde, who doesn't want to play by those rules and is free to kind of feel the fun in, okay, how far can I stretch this very rigid and structured society?
Yeah, that's very interesting, isn't it? Because of course, Jekyll is part of a class of English gentlemen that are very upstanding. We do a big kind of skit about that, how they don't talk without a smidgen of passion. They would never talk about their mental health, and everything is very surface level. But the deep underneath this is this kind of underbelly in society of poverty and violence. I think that's what perhaps draws Dr. Jekyll into this sort of experiment, which he thinks is going to be fantastic, right? He's going to be able to extract the Hyde or the evil out of people, and we can all go around living happy lives, grinning, and nothing will ever go wrong. Of course, the story deeply explores the the kind of temptation of being this child, as you talked about. You know, the children, like Richard and I's children are of a similar age, and they don't respect heat, and they will just put their hands into the fire, and they will jump in things, and they will slap people, and they, you know, because they're just children, they're young toddlers, and they go around and they don't have those social cues. They live a wild kind of innocence, and I think that's what we're exploring with Hyde. There's a moment where you talk about becoming Hyde for the first time. We were literally working on it just before we took lunch. What was he saying there? Was it like becoming Hyde, as Dr. Jekyll describes?
It's kind of all the opposites of what you would expect it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So you expect, you know, you see a tortured evil figure. You can pick a million from literature or from plays and such. And we see the evil outside, but on the inside, becoming Hyde for the first time, actually, it's really fun. Mm-hmm. And that temptation and that life, he feels younger, he feels brighter, he feels like he's got more energy. Even though from the outside, he might look more crooked and horrible.
And it's really interesting to think about the idea. Everyone talks about Hyde as a small man, but actually, I know the clothes don't fit. But for me, this is where I'm getting this idea of this child, really, the inner child that we all have, our like shadow self, our other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's a kind of fascination of the duality that I certainly have, because I think we're always in conversation with ourselves. You know, do either of you guys, you ever talk to yourself?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how does it manifest? How do you talk to yourself? Is it a good relationship, or what happens?
Sometimes it's like a proper conversation, like, oh my gosh, Coco, you're so funny. But do you remember when you did that thing last time? Oh my gosh, yeah. So where should we go now? What do you want to eat? Like, it's a proper, there's another version of Coco, and we're having this conversation, we like each other, and she's quite supportive, but it comes out in anything. Like, anything. Oh, you tripped up. Oh, you silly gal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it also, it's the thoughts that you don't say as well that also pipe up. Like, I think me and Jacob were having a conversation earlier, and he was like, do you ever just get those moments where you just want to do something violent, just do you know what I mean? But it's also it's almost like this person inside of us holds so much in, and then the odd occasion you might hear it talking, and you tune into it, and you actually like have a conversation, and in a moment you're like, rah, it's a bit dark down there, hey?
Yeah. What about you, Jacob?
Well, yeah, like we were talking, it's that highs within all of us.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think, it's so ridiculous. You guys are sitting there with your Macs open, and I was holding one of the canes, one of the props we're using. It's like, if I just smashed up the Apple Mac, like what you know? And obviously you would never do it because there's these rules. Don't worry, you're safe. I'm not going to start doing it now. There are these rules that society have, and also morally as well, and ethically that you're not going to do that. But there is still that part of us, to all of us. I don't know whether it's that animalness within us, but there is part of it. But it's what makes us human, and it's what makes us exciting. Because,
Definitely.
and it's for me where I think Jekyll fails is that he wants to separate these two things and completely get rid of the evil, but it's just not possible because it's that whole, it goes with lots of philosophies of yin and yang and everything like that. We need the good as well as we need the evil, because imagine if everyone was good and you got on with everyone and there was, I know it sounds awful, as there was zero conflict, it would just be, well, there'll be no drama, there'll be no theatre.
Precisely, yeah. And I think just to kind of final thought, we, you know, in the book, in the confession of Jekyll, we learn that Hyde is only one thing that he's scared of, and that is death, which I think is really interesting, because I think a lot of this rage and anger, the inner voice that we have, is based on survival. It's like it keeps us alive, and so that's amazing that his only weakness is the fear of death, this sort of innocent, free, wild thing that wants to smash up laptops and jump in the fire or the lake or whatever. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. The other final thing to say is that often I find when I'm angry with myself or I'm annoyed with myself and I start talking, I won't say, I'm so stupid. I'll say, you're so stupid. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that just a me thing?
No, I do it.
You know what I mean? So you refer to yourself as an other. It's because we are always two. We are always trying to understand this darker, stranger, more troubled part of ourselves that wants to wreck ourselves or bring ourselves down, but we need to take care of that other person. The thing is, Jekyll tries to make Hyde disappear, tries to rid us of Hyde, but actually I think what we need to do is make friends with our Hydes understand them, be a bit kinder to them. And but they're always going to be there, keeping us honest, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, a bit deep and meaningful for a Thursday, but hope that was helpful, guys. And good luck with all your. I'm sure you're going to be writing about it, but hopefully we'll see you in the school soon, and we can talk to you about it ourselves.